Randall Hughes with God Glorified, and we're commenting on our Bible reading for January the 4th, which is Job chapters 1 through 5. And a few years back, we had Brother Raymond Woodward do our church camp and the Bible lessons, and he talked about the wisdom literature and went over the book of Job. And he said, oftentimes people look at the book of Job and they ask the wrong question. They're asking the question, why? He said, the book of Job does not answer the question, why? Instead, it answers the question, how? When trouble hits, and chances it will at some point in your life, no one gets out of here without challenges. It's just the way life is. And so, in fact, Job said, man is a few days and full of trouble. And it's very, very true statement. And so to continue to trust God, ours is not to reason why all the time. I believe that he's provided us enough information in this book for us to have a good understanding of what he's wanting for our life. We were created to give him praise, and so we want to do that every day. We want to find a way to let our life give him praise and give him glory and to be used of him in some way. One of the in the last year, it's not happened as frequently as I would like for it to, but there was a situation where one of my neighbors I had a new neighbor move in and had just happened to notice one morning as I was pulling out to go to work that we'd had a storm come through and it had knocked one of his trees down onto his fence. I hadn't met the neighbor yet. He was so new in the neighborhood. And so the next time I saw him, I went and talked to him and introduced myself. And I said, I noticed you got a tree down on your fence. And he said, yeah. He said, I called somebody and they were wanting, I don't remember the money that they wanted, but it was way more than he was wanting to spend, having just moved and gone through those expenses. And I said, don't worry about it. I said, I got a couple of boys. I got a chainsaw. When do you want to do it? He said, could you come over Saturday morning? I said, be there. You name the time. And so when I drove over on the Saturday morning, drove my truck over and had a bunch of saws and different things in the back of it, and parked over where the tree was and walked around to ring this doorbell. And when he came out before I got to the door, and he said, man, you're an answer to prayer. And that gave me just the best feeling. Put a desire in my heart that said, God, I want to be the answer to somebody's prayer. And so life is going to be hard. There's going to be challenges. But if we can help somebody out when they're down, if we can encourage, unlike Job's friends, be words of encouragement and strength, not critical, not saying, man, you must have sinned big time and God is getting you back. That's not the way, and maybe there's a time for that. You might need to say, if you've considered repenting, but just some amazing truths about God is faithful. I don't understand why things happen, but think about this. I don't know that Job ever knew why he went through what he went through. But by being faithful through it, God blessed the latter end greater than his beginning. And so there's been health issues in my life, my wife, my family, financial issues, different challenges that we've faced in my years. But I'm mostly still standing, and God has been good and blessed. There's been blessings, there's been tears, but there's been joy, and believing there'll be more joy, and his goodness, his salvation. There's some things that are just priceless that you can't put a dollar on. And so the knowledge that he's given me of his word, and I'm not claiming to be anybody, understand me. I am nothing. I'm just a man that loves God, seeking to love him with all my heart, soul, mind, and strength, and seeking to know and understand everything I can know and understand about this book, because it tells me about the God that I'm in relationship with. And I want to know all I can about him. And I want him to open my eyes, open my understanding to his word and to his truth, and to be able to share it with others. And so that's what we're doing right here. Something that is really amazing about the book of Job is the writer seems to have had some insight or some vision possibly of two different, what I would call throne room scenes in heaven, beginning in chapter 1, verse 6, with his discussion with Satan, 6 through 12, and then in chapter 2, beginning with verse 1, and continuing all through verse 7. Don't know that we often think about this, but there was, and we read it, how there was a day when the sons of God, and we believe that the sons of God, we mentioned it in our discussion with Genesis chapter 6, and I'm not trying to advocate what I said on Genesis 6 comments. I'm not trying to advocate that the sons of God were angels. I just say there's a lot of questions, a lot of interesting things about it, and whether the book of Enoch has any credibility to it at all. I'm not trying to say that it's canonical, but sons of God typically means angels. Virtually everyone believes, all the commentaries I've looked at said these are angels when it speaks of the sons of God. It's the heavenly host, that there's a day that they give account before God. And then in chapter 2, it happens again. So how frequently do these angelic beings come before God and give an account of what they're up to? Even Satan himself. Think about that. And so the more I've stopped and considered the heavenly scenes, and I know when in Jacob's dream, he doesn't see a throne, he just sees Yahweh standing at the top of the ladder. Just one. There's only one called Yahweh, one among the sons of God. There's nothing that says there was the unique Son of God, a second or third co-equal, co-eternal person with God in the scene in Job. Neither is there one seen in Isaiah or Ezekiel or even Daniel chapter 7. We'll have some more discussion when we get into the New Testament or when we're reading the book of Daniel on some of that, the Son of Man that approaches. But it didn't put him on the throne in Daniel. And something else, as I considered this here with the throne scene, and hey, here's Job. What do you think? And then I look at 1 Kings chapter 22. It's also repeated, I believe, in 1 Chronicles chapter 18, the story of Ahab, where a prophecy has gone forth by Elijah that Ahab is going to die in the same place that they washed the blood of Naboth. They're going to wash, that the blood of Ahab will be there. Prophecy had gone forth, and it's as if God's in heaven saying, okay, guys, how can we make this happen to fulfill this prophecy? And a lying spirit comes and says, I'll be a lying spirit in the mouth of Ahab's prophets, and he'll go and fulfill your prophecy by believing the lie. And so I wonder how much that happens. Maybe there's challenges that you've had in life, that there's been something that took place in heaven in the spirit realm where God said, have you considered? Or where Satan said, I'm going to take this guy down. Because watch this. 1 Chronicles chapter 21. You know, we read about it in Samuel that David numbered the people. But in Chronicles, it gives us a little different insight at the start of that. The start of this chapter, it says, and Satan stood up against Israel and provoked David to number Israel. Think about that in light of Job 1, Job 2, and what we know from 1 Kings 22 with Ahab, as well as 1 Chronicles 18 with Ahab. And now, that must be 2 Chronicles with Ahab, 2 Chronicles 18 and 18. So 1 Chronicles 21 is with David. So I wonder how many other events that we read about in Scripture where somebody's tempted or tried and goes through a challenge, I wonder how many times that originated in some heavenly court scene like we see here in Job chapter 1 and chapter 2. And so just something to think about. It's not our place to know all the reasons why, but I will tell you one thing. As I've had health issues, my wife's had health issues, the challenges, and there's times that my wife, she has lupus and has gone through some tremendous pain. I don't understand, other than when we can be faithful to God in the face of trouble and adversity, God gets glory in some way. Listen to this. At the end of Jesus' time on earth, we know about Peter at the fire when Jesus is cooking fish and they come from the fishing, and Jesus is on the shore and has them come, and he's begins to speak to them, and he says, Simon, Simon, son of Jonas, lovest thou me more than these? And he said, thou know, Lord. And he's got the three questions 3 times, and he's getting a little upset by the 3rd time. But after the 3rd time, Jesus says this in verse 18 of chapter 21 of John, verily, verily, I say unto thee, when thou wast young, thou girdest thyself and walkest whither thou wouldest. But when thou shalt be old, thou shalt stretch forth thine hands, and another shall gird thee and carry thee whither thou wouldest not. Verse 19. This spake he, signifying by what death he, Peter, should glorify God. I don't know all the reasons for the whys, but I pray that my life gives God glory. That's why we named the channel what we named it when I started it more than, over probably getting close to 30 years ago. Or maybe it's a little over 25 years ago. I'm not sure. It's more than 25. It's in the late 90s, probably mid to late 90s, that I started the channel. And through the years, I don't know the last time I've checked. I know that it was in the millions of people that have read articles, or clicked on articles, maybe I should say. They might not have read it. But, and there's been people, I've had kind comments and remarks from various people at different times that it was a blessing. And so that's all I want to be. Somehow to be a blessing to the kingdom of God, to hopefully share a word of encouragement, share a word of truth that helps somebody find the way to Jesus. God bless you, and may your life give God glory today.